Hello, dear friends. The Cobra contactee speaks very little, but when he does, he reveals very interesting things. Current events surprised me once again, when I thought there were no important issues. Opinion piece. Pleiadians annoyed with the major powers. Disinformation abounds. Chinese fear of revolution. Maximum distortion in August. Maximum density at the end of the month. Then recovery begins. The planet will start to improve. They are trying to create a world war. They do not plan to use nuclear weapons. Light workers persecuted in Japan. The 2030 agenda will come too late. Things are tending to get better in the world. The plan is still on track despite the delay. They are trying to block the supply chain. Full launch not yet expected. Taiwan's recent escalation was an attempt. Taiwan has more strategic value than Ukraine. Pleiadians ordered Xi Jinping to stop. The Pleiadians are very frustrated with the Russians. They are trying to turn China into a dystopian society. They are trying to engineer a war between East and West. The main stronghold of the dark forces is China. Some armies are opposed to the liberation of humankind. Powerful opportunity for August by Patricia Cota-Robles. The old energy feels threatened by the coming changes. You will witness much action and activity during the next 10 days. Let's start. According to Cobra, the recent escalation between US and China over Taiwan was an attempt to start a world war, and our meditation was able to calm the situation, along with the Pleiadians warning Xi Jinping. The Pleiadians are very frustrated recently with the Russian generals. There is not much cooperation present, and communication has been reduced to almost zero. After our divine intervention meditation in December 2021, the Pleiadians contacted some key people in the positive armies in Russia, China, and the USA. And most of those people were not open to the liberation plan. In fact, many of them started to actively oppose the plan and are rather helping the clique to try to engineer a new world war. This is one of the main reasons for the delays in 2022, and the main reason why our meditation didn't have the expected impact. In the meantime, the dark forces are building their main stronghold in China and are trying to turn that country into a completely dystopian society. They are afraid of the revolution brewing beneath the obedient surface. Update on the situation by Cobra from the 2012 portal of the Intelligence Center for the Victory of Light. There is a lot going on behind the scenes, and as much as I would like to report it, it is simply too dangerous at this higher stage of the plan. In this moment, disinformation abounds in the vacuum created by almost no solid information on the surface of the planet since the collapse of the Alpha timeline in early 2018. Dark forces are leading campaigns against a few true sources with unsubstantiated rumors and false accusations. They are especially attacking the true teachings of the goddess and the true intelligence about the liberation of the planet. Several fairly well-known intelligent sources that were relatively reliable in the past could not hold the light and have crossed over to become instruments of the dark side. The network of surface light workers has almost collapsed, and the light forces have activated an emergency backup light network, about which nothing can be said. The curved metric space-time distortion anomaly around the planet's surface will reach its maximum density by the end of August 2022, and after that time it will be easier to sustain the light, and the light worker grid is expected to recover at least partially from the brutal attacks it has been under in recent months. Cleanup. The light forces have explained that the amount of anomalies and darkness of the surface of this planet would be enormous, and this would be the main reason why the light is not more effective in helping the surface population. They have also reported that they have clearing the primary anomaly at high speed, and that at some point they will also be able to directly influence the surface of the planet. When asked why they had stated in the past that they would intervene when certain limits were crossed, they offered no answer and remained silent. They have also reported that the subquantum anomaly around the planet's surface hides a dark entity that would be the last remnant of darkness from the previous cosmic cycle and would have survived the Big Bang in a subquantum state. This entity entered this universe through the central sun of the Andromeda galaxy, spent millions of years on Rigel, and was teleported to Earth in 1996. This entity would be completely eliminated along with the subquantum anomaly. In certain cycles, this entity is called lurker, which means lurker is the name given to participants in virtual communities who adopt a receptive attitude only, without actively contributing by sharing files, writing in discussions forums, etc. On the positive side, they have said that the Molnar quantum canyon technology is eliminating the anomaly around the planet's surface faster and faster on a more or less exponential curve, and progress is expected. Slow collapse. The collapse of the beta timeline in August 2019 has pushed the surface society onto a slow collapse trajectory, which the Davos Forum is trying to exploit in their plans for the Great Restart. They are treating society as a thermodynamic system in which a small selected part of the system, which is them, decreases its entropy at the expense of the whole system, which is humankind, whose total entropy increases. In short, they are treating surface humankind as a heat pump. Their incomplete understanding of the thermodynamics will lead to their downfall, and they will not succeed in their Davos restart plans. They now have 2030 as the target date for their engineered collapse and restart, which will be too late. They will miss the train. They are trying to artificially disrupt supply chains to accelerate the collapse. They are trying to engineer a conventional war between East and West by polarizing Russia and China against the US. Interference. In Japan, many light workers were recently attacked and directly persecuted by their government because of their activities as light workers. This was a clear violation of the non-interference treaty that was signed between the light forces and the clique. The forces of light were forced to sign a non-interference treaty with the states that they would not interfere directly on the surface of the planet, and in turn, Chimera would not interfere directly on the surface either. This is the reason why the agents of the resistance movement are not coming into contact with humankind on the surface of the planet. Also, this treaty is the reason why the reptilians have not been eating humans en masse for breakfast openly on the surface of human cities after 1996, when their presence below the planet's surface was enormous, with 500 million entities present. This treaty is also the reason why stranglehold bombs were not detonated on many occasions. 3 gaps. One part of that treaty states that the clique will receive security information from the light forces to protect the core people from the random attacks by the surface population, which is the only reason Bill Gates is still alive. And in turn, the clique promised not to persecute lightworkers directly because of their beliefs and activities. As a result of this violation, the light forces shut down the line of communication for a few days in early July as a warning. During these few days, the clique didn't receive security information to protect their people and their locations, which resulted in 3 security breaches from them. First, the first security breach brought down Georgia's guiding stones. Second, the second security breach took down Shinzo Abe. Third, this third security breach was a warning to the leader of that particular country of what can happen if he continues to persecute the light workers. That situation has since de-escalated. The main plan to liberate planet is still on track, despite all the delays. Things are trending upwards despite all the negativity on the surface of the planet. The great change is upon us, and the light will come at last. Victory of the light. China has it tough. Why China would lose any escalation involving Taiwan? By Mike Adams. In connection with Nancy Pelosi's visit to the independent island nation of Taiwan, Communist China is launching missiles on flight paths over Taiwan while surrounding the island nation with naval and aerial live-fire exercises. According to China, this is all part of the CCP's reunification plan to bring Taiwan under the CCP control, using military force to achieve its goals. Taiwan is a key strategic supplier of microchips to Western nations, providing critical components for Apple, arms manufacturers, shipping, transportation, and telecommunication industries. Without the steady supply of microchips and other Taiwan-made products, Western economies would face devastating financial consequences. For this reason, Taiwan is of high strategic value to the Western world, ranking much higher than Ukraine in the hierarchy of critical infrastructure. If China decides to blockade or attack Taiwan, the likely counterattack by Western allies would involve not only Taiwan, but also Japan, South Korea, Australia, the US, the UK, Germany, and other Western nations. In addition, Taiwan has much military power due to its advanced technology. Naval force. Russia dominates land warfare, but the US dominates maritime power. Russian artillery, Iskander missiles, tactical nuclear missiles, and other Russian land-based systems would be the best and most effective in the world. But when it comes to maritime conflict, the US Navy is unrivaled. It operates 11 aircraft carriers and 9 helicopter carriers, while Russia has only 1 aircraft carrier and China has only 2 aircraft carriers and 1 helicopter carrier. China's Liaoning aircraft carrier was purchased from Ukraine in the 1998 and is a former Soviet design, which was redesigned with Chinese technology, much of it stolen from the US, and was finally combat ready after 14 years of modernization. Naval experts do not consider the Liaoning to be a real challenge to a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier. China's second aircraft carrier is the Shandong, a more modern carrier launched sometime around 2020. Although it is a step up from the Liaoning, it is no match for the US Nimitz or Ford class carriers. Currently, there are 3 US aircraft carriers and accompanying strike forces group in the Taiwan area, 2 helicopter carriers, the USS America and the USS Tripoli, and 1 Nimitz-class carrier, the USS Ronald Reagan. On the other hand, the USS Abraham Lincoln is currently in the area of the Hawaiian Islands and is within reasonable reaction distance of Taiwan, should be going get tough. On top of all this, the US Navy has nuclear-capable submarines with ocean-launched intercontinental ballistic missiles that could destroy major cities such as Beijing. Taiwan's defenses. China would be vulnerable to Taiwan's missiles as well as to US Navy firepower. Taiwan has land-based missile systems that could bring down China's 3 Kojits Dam, plunging the Chinese economy into collapse, causing massive flooding and famine, and possibly even helping to topple Xi Jinping's regime due to the social unrest and mass uprisings that would take place in the following months. Therefore, whatever China wants to threaten to use against Taiwan or the US Navy, Allied forces could return the threat on a much larger scale. Any escalation by China would only result in China paying a very high price. China's real objective, it seems, would be to encircle and blockade Taiwan, but China's real attack would be directed at the American mainland with an attempted invasion of the West Coast. Everything is very delayed. Puffiness said via Steve Biko, in quotes, "The restrictions have been lifted enough to at least not upset the masses. I'm not saying it's happening, just that they know they are losing the information war and have to keep up some advantages to keep the ground teams at bay. You will witness a lot of action and activities over the next 10 days. The full launch is not yet expected, but the decision makers are making decisions on the fly these days. Don't get too cocky. Your efforts are appreciated at every level, really. Payments are long overdue. Citizens should have had access to these funds for their pleasure years ago. The link has nothing to do with our side of the negotiations, and everything to do with bankers, lawyers, two-bit players, clique staff, people who don't believe that those who own units are entitled to them. So you can take that to the bank and you won't get coffee, but it's the truth. We are watching, waiting, looking, searching, moving forward with any news or tidbits that might add glory to the game. Some who were committed and involved are no longer available and have been put in their place, shall we say. Do not speculate or play with words. Continue to keep your vigilance high, and I know everything looks good from our position here. We have nothing more we can add, except when the goods come home. Take it easy. Don't go out half-heartedly. Don't try to run around the highways making flashy purchases. There will be plenty of time for that. You have been dealing with this long enough to know that anything can happen. It's better to be conservative and play with the news. See how it's handled. Who comes out with it? And yes, one of the best pieces of information we like is that the bankers are no longer in charge. They still play their roles, but they also take others. Opportunity in August. Powerful opportunity for August by Patricia Diana Cota Robles. During an unprecedented 40-day collaboration, the awakening of humankind and the company of heaven were able to purge outdated paradigms from our past that have long wreaked havoc on the lives of humankind. This purging involved dismantling and crumbling the matrices that held in place the social structures that have manipulated, controlled, and repressed the masses of humankind for myriads of lifetimes. The matrices of all these negative patterns and structures were sustained through the fear-based consciousness of separation and duality. That distorted level of consciousness manifests through the behavioral patterns of greed, corruption, abuse of power, hatred, ignorance, and the willingness to respond with violence, all of which are void of love. Now, where the matrix of these obsolete paradigms, now that the matrix of these obsolete paradigms have been dismantled, the response reflects these painful behavior patterns, which will gradually disappear as humankind ascends further into the frequency of the new fifth dimensional Earth. Change threatened by Cryon through Lee Carroll. The old energy spirituality actually wants structure and feels uncomfortable and threatened with the coming changes. It struggles to retain old concepts that say spirituality must have punishment as part of its core, that evil must exist to balance love, that human beings are worthless and should find a higher source to worship, to give them strength, and that the spiritual truth would require a hierarchy of organized human beings, buildings, text, and a long lineage of do's and don'ts to live by. The spirituality of the new energy is in fact very different. It begins by declaring that we are God. It tells us that the only structure we need is within, and that everything is there to be found. It speaks of a plan in which an existence based on fear, based on ultimate punishment, is replaced by the awakening to self-responsibility, a responsibility that enhances wisdom and creates morality from within. Replacing fear of punishment is the joy of creating divine purpose. This new energy philosophy also creates self-esteem and a joy-filled existence. It is self-regulating without all the trappings of organization, buildings, rules of priests. It honors the God within and affirms that the very essence of God is available there, as well as all the do's and don'ts, that all spiritual strength is within. It gives every humankind the potential of a priest. Every human being, I mean. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.